5 questions about emotional eating while I do my makeup. Let's go. Why do I eat even when I'm not hungry? And how do I stop? If you are not physically hungry, there are 2 likely reasons why you overeat. Either you are restricting mentally. So even though you are not hungry, you still feel like some foods are off limits and you cannot have them with clear conscience, which makes them all the more attractive. Second reason is that you are using food as a comfort mechanism. This can be either a response to a strong emotion that you are feeling in the moment, and you might be aware of it or not, or it's a response to a whole stew of emotions that you have been suppressing for a long time that kind of merge together and live under the surface. This is most likely the case when your urge to overeat comes at moments of downtime. So when things kind of get quiet, maybe you are alone at home, and then suddenly once you are alone and there's not much to do, you get this really strong urge to overeat because these emotions that you have been suppressing for a long time start to bubble up. How do you stop this? You stop putting things that you like off limits and you start eating them in moderation. Make a rule for yourself that you have to have your favorite treat twice a day in a small quantity. For example, you are having a square of your favorite chocolate after lunch and after dinner. Over time, the food will become a bit boring and you will not crave it so much anymore. And if you're eating because of underlying unprocessed emotions, then you face the emotions and the urge to eat will go away. Don't worry, it's not as hard as it sounds. How do I stop using food to cope with stress, boredom, or sadness? You stop using food by first realizing that food is not a very good solution to stress, boredom, or sadness. Food doesn't solve these emotions. It doesn't help you feel any better. It just distracts you for long enough that the emotions kind of subside. But if you do this over a long period of time, the emotions kind of get stored on the inside. Imagine when somebody dies and you don't let yourself cry and you don't let yourself grieve. You can imagine how that kind of builds up inside of you. Once you realize that food is not a very good solution, you can start looking for a better solution, like therapy or journaling or any sort of safe space where you realize that feeling your emotions is not that bad. Imagine going around and spraying air freshener in your apartment instead of taking out the trash because you don't like taking out the trash. Like at some point, it's not even going to work anymore, and you're going to have to take out the trash. And if you're not taking out the trash because you don't know where the bins are, then you can just ask somebody where the bins are. They are going to help you, and then you can do it on your own. Why do I feel out of control around certain foods? Because you restrict these foods. You either do not eat them, or every time you eat them, you feel guilty about eating them and you think, I shouldn't be doing this. You have to start eating these foods in moderation and then the cravings will go away. What can I do when I know I'm full, but I still want to keep eating? Why do you still want to eat? Is it because somebody told you in the past that you have to clean your plate? Is it because you think throwing out food is somehow worse than packing it on you in the form of fat cells? You're wasting so many other resources in your life aside from food, and you never think twice about it. You flush your toilet with drinking water. You take the car when you could have walked. What makes not wasting food so special? You can set yourself a challenge. For 30 days, whenever you are full during your meals, you make it a rule for yourself that you will just walk over to the bin and you will put the rest of your food into the bin. If you feel like you really, really cannot do that, just stare in your plate and imagine that you are taking it over and throwing it into the trash. How do I stop feeling guilty after eating bad foods? You realize that feeling guilty is not bringing you anything. It's not going to prevent you from eating those food next time, because if it did, you wouldn't eat them in the first place, because this is probably not the first time that you feel guilty about eating them. Second, you realize that it's not your fault. You have probably been conditioned for years to give into the myths of diet culture. And if you're following this channel, then we are breaking those together. You can ask yourself, what exactly does make a food bad? Let's say you categorize chips as bad because they have a lot of calories. Well, what if you have just one? Are you going to feel when you have one chip? What if you have two? Okay, three. Where is the line? Where does the guilt start? Are you not allowed to have one single chip until the rest of your life? You will realize that the line isn't there. It's just a construct that you are having in your head, which is not really based on anything. That was 5 overeating questions in 5 minutes. I will see you next time.